Hello everyone, welcome to my live stream. My name is Denise Hutchins and I'm broadcasting to you from Studio Mikarts. Our charity of the month is Vegan Outreach, and there are a few ways you can help me, help them, help the animals. First, consider donating to our fundraiser here on Twitch. We have a modest $10 US goal set up. But if you can't donate, that's alright, because all you need to do is watch my streams and bring your friends, because I'll be making my own donation at the end of the month based on my unique viewers count on Twitch. You can also find links to Vegan Outreach in the chat right now, in my Twitch description, and once this recording is uploaded to YouTube, there will be a link in the description there as well. Today is Thursday, so it's time for more illustration work. I literally left all of my stuff out from yesterday. No reason to put it away. We're just going to pick up right where we left off. We're working on the next entry in my Maginaturalist sketchbook piece, which is Gaasyendietha, a fire-breathing water dragon from Lake Ontario. And we have determined a basic idea of what the scene will be, and we also worked out some details as far as how our meteor dragon doing a cannonball into the lake is going to look, including the different ways the tail could be angled, the variation in contrast. We have the very dark background and the very bright fire and the water splash coming out. And I think the size is all right to have about this size. Yesterday I was thinking that this might be too small, but for such a huge creature to be splashing into the lake, I drew this little tiny, you can't even see it, it's so small. This little tiny rectangle represents the people, the human people I was seeing in the reference image of Lake Ontario on this far side. So like that's how big a human is. So we need an enormous dragon. That's one of the key words in the description from the encyclopedia. So if we see this is a human, this is how big a human is. This is the size of the dragon, even with perspective. Even if this is like a quarter mile out, that's still going to be a pretty big creature. So I think this is good. This one might be a little bit too big because it feels like it'd have to be way closer to the Maginaturalist, and the splash like isn't big enough for that. So if we keep the splash this big but have the dragon be a little smaller. Just feeling this one a little bit more today. But now we need to move on to actual sized sketches. We can either, and I'm thinking out loud here, we can either do a few smaller but to scale sketches like I did here, which might be nice, because this is definitely not to scale, or yes, this is not to scale. This is not the proper scale. This is way too long. We're looking for about 6 by 4 inches. Well, this will be 4 by 6, doing it upways like this. So, do those, or we could just try and move on to the final full-size sketch, since we already know about what placement we want. We just need to fit it into the correct format. So I'm saying this because I'm thinking about what do I want to do. I kind of want to get on with it because I'm really excited about this piece. Yeah, let's just do it. So I have I wonder if it's, I don't remember where I put it. While I wait for my replacement sketchbook to arrive with the paper that I have been using for this project, in the meantime, I've been using a sheet of Bristol paper, which is pretty close. Oh, did I use it for this? No, this is different. Okay. I'm trying to see Oh, I gotta sneeze in a second. You coming, sneeze? Oh. Here's the one I did last month. So I need to find the other half of this paper because I cut this paper in half since I didn't need the full, I think it was 9 by 12. But I don't see it in here. And by here I mean my project box, my active project box. So I'm gonna go over behind my desk into my paper storage. Maybe it's just in my Bristol pad. Ah, it is. Hooray! People always compliment me by saying how organized I am, but it's still not enough to always know where everything is. I still am confused by my own decisions. Past me put something somewhere and it made sense at the time, but present me is like, what the heck? Where is this thing? That wasn't too bad though. I only had to look in a couple places. Okay, so I'm getting into one of my storage closets for this lovely 4x6 inch template. So the template's nice because it's already the correct size, but it also has the nice 90-degree corners. So I don't have to worry about creating those, because it's actually a lot harder than it seems like it should be. So I'm just going to center this as much as possible on my final bit, and let me make sure I'm on the side I want, because I remember last time there was a little inclusion or something and I decided to use the opposite side of the paper, but these are just about the same either way, so I'll use the front side. You can, once you've looked at paper enough, even on a piece of Bristol, you can just kind of see which was the side against the screen to make the paper and which was the side that was above it. And that's the front side. With Bristol, it doesn't really matter though. You're really not going to notice by the time you finish your piece. Unless your piece is like just a swipe of paint and that's it. Then maybe you'd notice, but okay. So first I'm going to use my blue pen to create an outline in the size that I want. And I don't need to actually create the entire square, including all the corners. I just need the boundary lines. And we'll remove this blue ink at the end using Photoshop. I like using the blue ink ever since I learned about this technique, and blue pencil, as you can see here, because it helps me visually as I'm creating the piece. I can ignore the blue. And then it's easy enough to remove digitally after the fact. Okay, I'm going to put my template away. I'm going to have another drink real quick of my juice shake. Today I decided to put some protein oats in it. See what that's like. So far so good. It's tasty. I was like, what if it's like overnight oats, but I don't put in as many, so it's just kind of like an oats drink. So now it has juice, mixed fruits juice, soy milk, chia seeds, fiber powder, and oats. I think that's it. So a nice nutritious shake for me, which I can sip while I'm working and it doesn't make a mess. It doesn't get crumbs everywhere. It doesn't make my hands dirty. Okay, so we already determined we wanted to go up, uppy downy. I know I don't use the proper terms for this. This is how I think. The proper term is vertical or portrait, uppy downy. And I still have, I just gotta bring it up. Oh, if I can see my other monitor where the toolbar is. My reference image, there we go, that I found on Pexels yesterday. So I can use this to sketch, and we'll sketch with the blue pencil. We'll use the pencil instead of the pen because I want to be able to erase. And I use the pen on this outside because I don't want that to erase. So let me take a moment to adjust my setup here so that I can still see what is, so I'm looking over this way at my OBS, so that's good. I can still see the video, so I can make sure the video that's going out looks good. I can also see my HyperX Quadcast mic. I don't know what the official term is for that little bar that shows you the volume, and it's green and yellow and in red when I speak loudly. I can see that too, so I can tell that the microphone is working. But below that, I now have my reference image, and I'm going to use that to build the environment, and then just like we did here, we'll just add our cannonballing dragon into the scene. So I guess it does help to have this so that I can tell where do I want to put this. I kind of feel like it's nice to just have it centered. Or maybe a little bit off to the side, but not on the third line, because if we divide it into thirds, which is the really common way to divide an image for visual satisfaction, the third line would be right about here. But if I did that, the splash would be off. It would end up being off the scene. And I'd like to include the splash. So maybe centering it in between the two. Maybe I'll actually draw some lines to divide that so I can keep that in mind. I still have my real big ruler out. My 18-inch ruler from yesterday is still out. So to divide this into 3, it's going to be a little tough because, and it always is, because it's 4 inches, so that doesn't divide well with the lines on the ruler, which are always by even number divisions. So I'll just do my best. 4 divided by 3 should be 1 2/3, I think. Let me double check. Okay, Google, what's 4 divided by 3?
4 divided by 3 is approximately 1.33.
Oh, 1.33. I did a little too far. So 1.33 would be a little farther than 1 1/4, but less than 1 1/2. So let's just do 1 and like a 1 1/2 lines. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone else, but it's enough for me to get on with. So 1 1/4 and then 1 1/2 lines. And then we'll do that up top. Turn it around. Do the same thing, and we'll match those lines up. Okay. So 1 1/4 and then 1 1/2 lines after that. 1 1/4 and then 1 1/2 lines after that. Sweet. Now, oh yeah, I should get, I'll do it after I do this. I'm having a hard time. Oh, there's a little pet hair on here. Kiki was in here. My cat, Kiki. And she was sleeping right in the chair that I'm sitting in right now, and so her hairs are like all over everything. There was a hair right there. Ah! And I was rhyming again just now. Anyway, after this, I'm going to get my little tiny clipboard because I have a nice vinyl cover on my desk here because the desk was a hand-me-down, and it was full of pock marks and gouges and cuts. So I got the vinyl cover so that it would be smooth again. And then I also put, you can't tell because this vinyl cover has gotten so dirty, but I also put paper underneath because it was really distracting seeing like leftover paint and glue globs and the wood that was where the top was gouged. The top was white, but it was gouged, and just so you can see this wooden gouge, and it's just visually distracting. But now I have all this dirty stuff from working on here for so many years, so it doesn't matter. But what I'm getting at is the vinyl cover holds onto the paper really tight and makes it hard to move it around because it's almost sticks to it. So if I have my nice Masonite clipboard, then I can just grab the clip and move it around. So I'll do that after I finish with this. Happily, this side is going to be way easier to divide into 3 because this is 6 inches. So we'll just do it at 4 and at 2. Oh. It's interesting, if there's air in between it, the paper will like fly away and won't stick. But if you squeeze the air out from in between the vinyl cover and the paper, it's like they suction together. Okay, 4 and 2. Okay, last third lines. So this will just help me with placing different elements in a way that feels really satisfying and helps bring focus to that which we want the viewer to focus on, and making sure that nothing important ends up with too little space. Ah, it went, the ruler curved at the end. There. I have a little pew. Alright, that's good. Okay. Boop. I'll leave that unzipped. Let me put this ruler back over to my side and get up. And remember, this paper ended up being just barely the perfect size. I think it stuck out of the end of the clipboard a little bit, but from left to right, it was the exact right size. Yeah, it's maybe like a millimeter too wide, but definitely good enough to be getting on with. And I just gotta remember that as the paper hangs down like this, it makes it pop up here, because if my hand, and I'm left-handed, so I put my hand on here, the paper pops up here. But it's still so much better because I can grab this tab that's sticking up for the clip and move it much more freely. Okay, I think for the tertiary camera, I'll point it at my sketch stuff. Maybe. I'm having a hard time with how do I use this camera without it casting a shadow on everything. Let's pull this light forward a little bit. Well, something like that. So at least you can see what's going on up top, although it's sideways. Okay, time for another drink of my juice shake. I'm feeling pretty hungry today. Yummy. Yeah, putting the oats in there is a great idea. I'm glad I tried it. I've been thinking about it for weeks. I finally did it. All right, we want it to go this way. Ah, there's like no room. Did the camera come any farther down? Nope. Well, it's just barely on right here. So I'll just try to remember that, so that I don't start drawing off screen. Okay. So I've got my reference. I have the idea of where I want this. So we gotta have the dragon like right here. So this is what I was talking about, centering our dragon between these 2/3 division lines. So we'll include the splash as part of the dragon. So instead of having the like the midpoint of the dragon's curly body right here on this intersection, instead having it a little bit in from that and crossing this whole square, or rectangle really. And then we have room for the splash to be part of the character, because the splash does have character in this scene. So I think that's good. Alright, got my idea. And then I can use the sketch I've already done. So right here is the water. Below it is the rocks that the viewer of this scene is standing on. So we need to place the dragon up and down in a way that works with the lake, leaves room at the bottom for these rocks to be. We don't want the rocks to be so cut off that you can't tell that they're a place that you could stand on. So if they're super cut off, it could just look like, oh, this is just a random rock sticking out of the water. Instead, it's more of another shore, it feels like. So we've got this big spit of land coming out here. So this just feels like more of that. So we need this dragon to be placed in between the spit of land in the background and the boulders in the front that the viewer is standing on. Okay. I wonder if I'll do this camera really close. I'm not satisfied with what my tertiary camera is up to. Come on, tertiary camera, show something cool. If I do a front image from the front of the drawing happening. Can't figure it out. And here's cast in a shadow again. Blast it. If I do the light really off to the side like that, then it helps the shadow. Alright. This is just going to have to be good enough. Whoop. There. Let's get on with the drawing. So our boulders, it does curve a bit. So I'll just draw a general line. Wait, let's see if we want, so we want the splash to actually, let's mark the spot very lightly and generally. This circle, which you might not even be able to see because it's so lightly drawn, represents our dragon. So we need space between the dragon and the top edge of the rocks. So we'll make the rocks actually like this. Something like that. Just really lightly starting to place things. But we don't just need space here, we need space up here. Not as much though, because the way perspective works, the dragon might be splashing, so the dragon might be splashing here right in the middle But with perspective, we see way more of what's closer to us and way less of what's farther from us. So maybe we'll do half this distance, just eyeballing it, but half that distance. And this is that far distance beach. And just bring it all the way across the image. And it definitely curves in. So we've got, I don't know if it's a forest. It kind of looks like a forest growing up on a hill. And that just goes straight across. But then there's a sandy, more sandy looking beach curving down this way. And then the way the foresty hill rises up is kind of like this. There, that's good enough. Alright, so I needed to remember that this is nighttime. I'm going to write that. Remember, the image I'm looking at for reference is not nighttime, and so it's really easy to forget. And it's going to matter a lot when I start inking because we want a really nice dark sky. We might have some vestiges of sunlight, you know, the very last tiny rays lighting up down here, but even then it feels better somehow for it to be completely dark. So that's the best meteor viewing time, I think. Yeah, I'll ask Google. Okay, Google. Generally, what's the best time of day or night to watch meteors?
Sorry, I don't understand.
Oh, Google doesn't understand. I'll just search it. I'll use the AI search. It's more advanced. What time of day or night in general is best for viewing meteors? Maybe I needed to use the word viewing. Between midnight and dawn. Says during these hours your location on Earth is facing in the direction of Earth's orbit around the sun. This means you're essentially running into the meteoroids that create meteors, resulting in more frequent sightings. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't think about that. Okay. For specific meteor showers, the radiant point often rises later in the evening. As the radiant rises higher in the sky, more meteors become visible. Meteor showers. Can depend based on the meteor shower. Ah, a bright moon can make it difficult to see fainter meteors. So it should be a new moon for best viewing. Interesting. Or crescent, it says. Light pollution. Well, we don't have to worry about that. For our scene, we're just on the lake and there's no nothing. Okay. Well, between midnight and dawn. Okay. So yeah, let's not have any leftover light in the sky. So that it would be the best possible time to see meteors, which this dragon is... I can't remember how it was described. I don't know if I wrote it down the way it was described. The point is that if you see a meteor in the sky, it might be this dragon. That's what the story was. So, I feel like to up your chances of seeing this dragon, you should up your chances of seeing a meteor. Oh, Wolf, hello! How are you? Thank you for subscribing for 19 months. Hooray! Yay! Hope you're doing well. It's always so great to see you, even if it's just a little subscribe message. I hope you're all right. Hope Ari's all right. Enjoying your new house. If you want to lurk, you are welcome to lurk. I'll just keep narrating my illustration process as usual. Trying to get all my thoughts in here so I don't forget. But I feel like I've got everything mapped out now. I've got the sky up here and our mountainous foresty bit of land with the beach coming out toward the viewer. Our little circle, which is eventually going to become our dragon. And of course the lake that they are splashing into. Cannonball! And the bouldery beach that our Maginaturalist is standing on. Oh, good. Oh, that's nice. I bet she loves that. Our puppies like to go to the park too. How are the bees? The bees are coming along nicely. But I knew that I have so much left to do on that piece that there's no way I could get it done for February for Patreon rewards. That's why I'm taking a break with another Maginaturalist sketchbook piece so that I can send this out to you and everyone else once it's done. I don't know if you caught yesterday's stream, but this is kind of what I'm working on. I'm turning this into the actual proper size. We've got this scene of Lake Ontario at night. And then our meteor dragon is cannonballing into the lake from the sky. So it's amazing. We got it. The next entry in the encyclopedia was a dragon again. So we're doing 2 dragons in a row for this series. So yep, as soon as I get this done, I'm going to go straight back to the bees because that's my main illustration right now. But those onomatopoeia pieces take forever because I have so many steps that I do. But it is coming along nicely. I can't remember if I was starting on the final sketch yet. We'll see how far I can get today on this. It would be awesome if I could finish this today. But I don't want to rush it because I want it to look just as good as any other illustration I do. Okay, so let's add some boulders to the scene. These are very angular boulders. Third wing after Kings of the Wild. I don't know what those are. It sounds like it's either a game or a book series. It sounds cool to me though. Other books. Oh, and Sarah's here too. Hello, Sarah, with the Million Rangers sliding into Sailor. Whee! How are you, Sarah? I hope you're feeling better today. Getting close to the weekend. One more work day after this. For me, anyway. I know not everybody has the weekend off, but... Oh, they're books. So it sounds like fantasy books. Is that what they are? What are they about, too? I haven't heard of them at all. Of course, as spoiler-free as possible, because I might want to read them. I've been reading some new fantasy books. New to me. Definitely not new, but new to me fantasy books recently. Ooh, much different from each other. And Sarah says 20-week detailed scans tomorrow morning. Oh, are you excited for that? Nervous? They give you pictures of those when you're done, so you can hang them on your fridge and stuff. I know people do that. And we've got a big boulder right here. I'm going to have to change this a little bit from what I'm actually seeing in order to make it fit where I want, but it'll have the general idea of the location, even if it's not 100% precise to actual Lake Ontario. Kings of the Wild is like Wild Hogs, but fantasy. Loved it. Super funny and chill for the most part. Oh, that's good. Kind of sounds like something I'd want to read. Kings of the Wild with a Y. Sarah says, we're going to publicly announce after everything comes back. Oh, you haven't even announced it before? I'm surprised. Not nervous, just not looking about... Oh. Yeah, I hate having to get up early. It's part of the reason why I decided not to do road running races anymore. Because you do all this training and you try to look after your nutrition and your hydration and your sleep and everything so that you're tip-top. And then for race day, you have to get up like 3 hours earlier than normal in order to make it to the location, find a parking spot, use the bathroom with the long lines because you have to get there so early that you definitely have to go again before the race starts and all this stuff. Like, this isn't worth it. I can't give my best performance because the race day doesn't allow me to. So, I understand not liking to get up early. But it's for a fun reason, so hopefully you'll feel a little bit more jazzed when the time actually comes. Fourth Wing is about a female dragon rider, super popular. Oh, sounds cool to me. Look, I'm drawing a dragon even, and the series I'm reading right now has dragons in it. I am reading for the first time the first Earthsea book, and I'm liking it quite a bit, and I feel like I am reminded, oh yes, fantasy is my favorite genre, even if many of the newer books that I've tried reading have been very disappointing to me. So I felt like maybe fantasy is not my favorite. But no, it is. I just like extremely well crafted and I don't know, maybe it's high fantasy that I really, but Harry Potter is definitely not high fantasy and it's one of my faves, so I don't know. Can't explain it. I'm just have very specific tastes. Only immediate family knows. Aw, I feel very special. I feel very special then. Thank you for including me. Oh, yeah. Does the marathon end at the same place that you park? Well, it depends. So for an actual marathon length marathon is about 42 kilometers. And often they're just, well, I can't say actually. A lot of them are out and back. So you run out for half the distance or some amount of the distance and then you run back. And it can either be along this exact same route or maybe you'll take a slightly different route and yeah, you'll end at the same spot. But the shorter distances, especially like a 5K. So a 5K road race would very often be start here, end here. Because it's not as logistically difficult to get that amount of space reserved for a race, if that makes sense. Because to do a road race, you've got to get city permits or at least the permission of the people who own the land if you're going to do it out on like trails or something. So I hate fantasy and sci-fi being lumped together. Yeah, I have a similar thing. I hate when space fantasy is talked about like it's sci-fi just because it's in space. No, that's not the same. Just because it's in space doesn't mean. So I haven't read the books yet, but I watched the movies and I'm like, no wonder I like these Dune movies so much that we watched at the beginning of the year. Never seen them before. And I'm like, these are the best. These are so awesome. And it's just fantasy. It's high fantasy in space. But it tends to be people say, well, it's sci-fi because they have these harvester machines or something. But that's not the same thing. Sci-fi is like showing, okay, this is how the science works. This is like based on actual science, and this is how it could come forward from that. Or say we invented this new thing, and then here's all the processes that come out of that. Ooh, I better stop. I'm going on a rant. So I kind of know how I feel. Have I read Magic Kingdom for Sale Sold? Oh, I haven't. That sounds funny. Just from the title, it sounds funny. What's that about? Wow, so many books I haven't heard of before. Oh, no, you don't have to. You don't have to walk the 5K back. They'll have a start festival. They'll call it like this starting line. So they'll call it like the starting line and finish line. And they usually call it a finish festival or something like that. There's a complete... You don't have to go back. There will be people waiting for you at the end. It's usually a lot of volunteers for these races. That's how they're able to happen. Because it costs so much just to set them up that they can't hire staff for everything that they need. So it's like, thank you so much, volunteers. So for a 5K, you might have one water station in between. And then the Finish Festival. And the Finish Festival will have like sponsors giving out free goodies or coupons or something. And they'll have usually like a bunch of fruit and bagels and coffee for you to have right after and everything. So yeah, you don't have to go back unless that's the actual route that you finish where you started. Is there a shuttle to get back to your car? It depends on the race. It depends on the race organizers. But for instance, the biggest race as far as number of participants in my area is the XVII, and they definitely have shuttles. They not only have shuttles from start to finish, so that, say you do run, so they go as high as a half marathon, which is like 21-ish kilometers. That, what am I trying to say? So after you've run that far, you don't have to walk back. If you left stuff at the start, there's a shuttle going back there to the start. And they have shuttles going back to a couple specific areas just in the city so that it's easier to get home as well. So, but it depends. If it's a really teeny tiny race, like a really small locally organized race, you might not have a shuttle. A man buys a magic kingdom from a newspaper ad and gets to rule the kingdom and live his life there. Oh, that sounds so fun. What the heck? Well, if you want to pop any of these in the Discord so I can look at them later. That sounds really fun. What the heck? It's like an isekai. Like a Japanese isekai type of story. You know, like, oh, I opened the broom closet in my workplace, and there was a portal, and I fell in, and now I'm the king of this fantasy world. That's what often happens in the isekai. I see them a lot as animes, but usually they start, or very often they start as online novels. Japanese online novels, where they're released on online platforms. Which, that kind of thing gives me hope if, with my novel I'm working on, if nobody wants to publish it, I'm like, that's fine. I've got my blog. I'll publish it on my blog. I actually have a book. I'm looking up. It's literally called, I'm looking at it now over here, How to Blog a Book. And I started reading it. And its first advice was, you have to have your book finished. And I'm like, okay. So I put that book back on my shelf and didn't finish reading it because my novel's not done. So I'll pick that book back up if no publishers are interested in what I have to offer. So, like, I'm totally cool. Even if nobody wants to publish it, that's okay. I can publish it myself. Just like all of these people in Japan are doing with these online light novels, basically, and then they get published as actual light novels, and then they get really popular, and they get made into anime and manga. There's plenty of paths to share my stories with people. Okay. How are we on time? Oh, we still got 13 minutes. I've got my rocks here. My nice boulders for our Maginaturalist to be stepping on. We got this nice, real big one, too, to show. She's got this huge flat boulder right here. I'm sorry you can't really see very well. Once I don't need this sketchbook anymore, I'll be able to move this up, and then I can bring my camera down. But I still need to be able to see this stuff, so, and it can't go anywhere else. So it's just going to have to be like this. Okay, next. Guess I'll draw a dragon. Dragon is next as far as going from front to back from what we're seeing. A lot of people starting self-publishing due to the pandemic lockdown. People started writing books. Yeah. Only issue with self-publishing, not having an editor. Yeah. That is huge for me. I just can't get into any self-published books because the editor is such a huge part of it. And I've been reading so much over my life and my career too, ever since I decided, you know what, why I always wanted to write. Why don't I just do it? So I just started doing it. And it's so easy to get so excited and feel like, yay, my novel is done. But if you can put in the time to really edit and really think about what could be better, like, is there anything else that could be included, or could it actually be better taking something away? And an editor helps you do that because it's so much work just coming up with the story on its own, which I know firsthand experience now is so hard. But you get so tired, and so I think it's very easy to just say, no, it's good, it's done, and not be willing to grow or have a critical eye for your own work. So I hope to never be that way. I know it can still be hard. That's why I'm working so hard to have my story be as polished as I can do on my own before I start asking for beta readers or anything like that to give me an outside opinion. But pretty much every book about writing I've read says editing is key. You've got to edit, you've got to write multiple iterations. I'm just trying to adjust this dragon here. Their tail's getting way too thin, way too fast for how big the body is there, so we'll change that. Yeah, spell checking, basic proofreading. Yes. But you know, that's not even limited to self-publishing. Because one of the recent fantasy books, I say recent, it was like 2 or 3 years ago now, but I decided, you know what, let's just try a new fantasy book without knowing anything about it. We'll read the first page and the blurb on the back, and if it sounds good, we'll get it. And this was back when I bought everything. I've since learned, oh, you know what, let's check it out from the library first before we spend money on it and read it to make sure the story is good. I spent money on a brand new book, and within the first chapter it was riddled with typos. It had stuff like random words in the middle of a sentence that didn't make any sense, like they just accidentally got in there or something, and repeated words and words that like missing letters kind of thing. So hard. So hard because you can't even trust publishers to do the due diligence. And it's interesting because I've attended so many of the SCBWI, which is the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators summer conferences. I've done 3 years in a row. So even though I have not personally worked with anyone in that industry yet, I've learned tons from attending all of these panels and talks and everything. And everybody says, oh, you have to be used to how slow the publishing industry is. You'll get a book deal and submit your final manuscript, and it won't actually be published for 3 years. It's stuff like that. And yet, I feel that hearing this doesn't seem to match up with all of the books that are coming out that aren't receiving the amount of work that they deserve, because I think these stories with silly issues like typos could be so much better if they were given due diligence. And so it actually feels to me that the publishing industry is just rushing to pump out books like crazy. That's just my opinion based on what little I have seen of it, though. Most of this opinion formed as a consumer rather than a producer, but it is surprising to me. Yeah. Exactly. Like they changed their mind on phrasing but didn't remove the first words. Yep. That's exactly what it was like. Some books I'm okay with typos, especially ones that are just about specific topics like psychology topics, and you want to help yourself work through something. And so you get this psychologist's $5 ebook that covers the topic. When there's typos in a book like that, it doesn't bother me because they're covering a very specific topic and it's probably not a big money maker, so maybe no publishers are interested because there's not enough people with that problem looking for a book to help themselves. But a fantasy book, come on, man. People love fantasy. Everybody loves fantasy. No, not everybody. Some people hate fantasy. It's crazy to me. It's crazy. No, it's not actually crazy. Everybody can have different opinions and different likes and dislikes, but I love fantasy so much it's still hard to imagine disliking it. It's just so wonderful to me. Ever since I was a kid, it's always been my fave. Which you probably doesn't surprise you at all. It's all I ever do is draw fantasy stuff and animals. So, sure, it's no surprise to anybody watching. Okay, I'm really liking the shape I've got here. Nice and round, perfect for the cannonballs so that they're flying through the air. Really nice aerodynamic. So we've got our dragon in here. Let's add a splash. We'll add the splash first and then add the flames. So we determined yesterday that the splash and the flames will be the brightest thing. That's why I use this white ink to show it. The brightest things in the scene. So we're just going to try to leave the paper white there. So we will outline it. And we'll do splash first and then the flames, because the splash will be taking some of the flames out. Plus the splash will be coming around the front of the body. Whee! Fantasy is way better than reality. Yeah. At least for my source of entertainment, that's for sure. I've been feeling it a lot recently. I have been watching Daredevil on... What is it on? They have it on Disney Plus. I don't remember what it first came out. I think it first came out on Netflix, actually. But since it's on Marvel, it's available on Disney Plus. And I'm on season 3 now. I won't do any spoilers, of course, but the first season, I tolerated all of the gratuitous violence because the story was so good and I was really enamored with the characters and everything. The second season was pretty good. Definitely still had strong characters that made you care, even though they were extremely flawed. But this third season, I feel like I'm watching it just to watch it, and just because there's another season coming out soon after a million years. And what I'm getting at is the Daredevil series is very realistic. It has lots of domestic violence and gang violence and actually very realistic stuff. It has a few little fantasy elements to it, like Daredevil's abilities or something like that, but overall I'm not enjoying it very much because it's so violent, and it's actually kind of triggering because I didn't grow up in the best of circumstances, let's say. So there's some things where I'm like, I don't enjoy watching this because it just reminds me of bad things, so I much prefer something like the terror of the orcs in Middle Earth to the terror of gang violence in real life, even though both of these things are very fantasy because Daredevil's powers and some of the powers of the bad guys and stuff, like, they wouldn't have that. Otherwise, very realistic. Yeah, originally Netflix. And I just decided not to carry on with Netflix anymore because they raised their prices again this year and they're not giving me value for how much it's costing. Yeah, exactly. That's it. It's hard to disconnect when it feels like it could be really happening. Versus clear fantasy. Exactly. So, like, the Wolf says preach. I'm doing that a lot today. Having a lot of opinions coming out today, but like with Dune, there is a lot of violence in Dune. But the fantasy nature and the almost romanticized nature of the violence, where it is not just violence because of societal breakdown necessarily, but there's all these machinations and so much meaning behind it. I don't know how to explain it well, because I don't want to give any spoilers either. I'm trying to keep it spoiler free. So for other people, it's probably fine. And I don't judge anybody negatively for that. But for what I enjoy, I like it to be very clearly fantasy, not that realistic. I really like how I drew the splash on this, but it's so sketchy. That's why it's so nice, because it's really easy to interpret it in multiple ways. But I'm going to have to get precise here, because when I lay down the ink, that's that. When I was noticing that when the water splashes up, it sucks it up a little bit. Because it's not like the water just stays flat. You're scooping water out by splashing. So I'm trying to get this curved look at the bottom of the splash too. Oh, I didn't. I want to, though, now that I've watched the movies. I can't remember. I feel like somebody said that the series was even better than the movies. I'm like, dang, dude, because these movies were awesome. I can't wait. After I finish the Earthsea series, I want to read Dune next. Because the book is really old. Okay, Google, when was the first Dune novel published? Oh, that's perfect. Okay, Google, when was the first Earthsea novel published?
1968. According to Wikipedia, A Wizard of Earthsea is a fantasy novel written by American author Ursula K. Le Guin and first published by the small press Parnassus in 1968.
Okay, so what I'm getting at is I thought, well, I'll read it with a grain of salt because it's older. But what do you know? I'm enjoying this Earthsea novel, and it was published only 3 years later than Dune, so I'm probably going to love it. I mean, I might not, because I thought I would like Les Miserables, and that... Okay, this is my opinion, but that book sucks. I hated that book. I didn't finish it. It was so boring. I didn't care about any of the characters. I think people rate it 5 stars because they love the musical. We're getting to another rant zone. Okay, I'm going to try not to rant too much. Try not to rant as much. Focus on my splash. Let's focus on my splash. I love reading though, so. You have ignited my passion. I don't even think we have Max. I wonder how much it costs. Or if there's a physical media version, that would be cool, just like a Blu-ray. Because we watched the first 2 movies on Blu-ray. We just got the Blu-rays and watched them. It's so good. The music, incredible. Of course, it's Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer's one of my favorite composers. He's so good. I just listened to it's one of those soundtracks where afterwards you just listen to it. It's so good. Some soundtracks really go with the movie and then you try to listen to it afterwards and it's like, I guess this is okay background music, but it's nothing on its own. I mean, that's kind of mean to say, but I am allowed to have my own opinions as a listener. So it goes great with the movie, but a little weak when it's just on its own. But not this. Not this one. So good. Okay, this splash looks pretty good, I think. So I'm going to leave that. So next we're going to draw the flames coming off. Whee! And I'm going to try to keep the shape different so that when this is finished, all in black ink, we'll still be able to tell what is water and what is fire. So this is an interesting dragon because they breathe fire but live in lakes and rivers. Whee! Oh, Wolf, thank you so much! I'm so happy! Yay! Thank you, thank you, thank you! Wolf just donated $10 to Vegan Outreach. Thank you so much! You're the best! I'm so happy! Thank you, thank you, thank you! And thank you from the animals as well. Thank you so much for always being so supportive. Wow! That's the best! What a great day! What a great week! As usual, now I'm just like smiling like a dork. It's so awesome! Yay, we made our goal, and it's only the first week of the month. It's excellent. Thank you, Wolf. I don't know if it's coming across, but I'm also trying to show the flames are flowing backwards because of the direction of the flight. I wonder if I should make this splash bigger. Because our dragon, I'm trying to remember the name. It's long and Gaasyendietha. Gaasyendietha. It's flying in basically from space. So this is going to be like a huge splash. Helping all the animals. Yay! Ah, yay! And that little ranger on the end is really sends it home. And it really does help. It really does help all animals. It helps wild animals. helps animals in laboratories. So that's so helpful, so helpful. Thank you. Really, really, really do appreciate it. It makes my streaming here so meaningful when you and others have stepped up to support something that matters so much to me. Oh, we're over time. For break time. I'm just so into this and then so excited. I'm like sweating now because I'm so happy. I'm so happy about the Wolf's donation. And that's the first time I think we've had Vegan Outreach as our charity of the month for 2 years. And this is the first time that anyone has donated. And I know someone personally who was very positively impacted by Vegan Outreach, so it made me even more proud to have them as an organization that I support. So just, this makes me so happy. Yay! Here, let me pull this down, at least for break time. Show you how far I've come. If it wants, there we go. So we've got our Gaasyendietha splashing into the water. I'm thinking about making the splash bigger, but this is only the beginning of the splash because only this little part has impacted so far, so that might be fine. And then we've got the flames. We figured out yesterday that salamanders breathe through their skin, which means that a fire-breathing salamander dragon can breathe fire through their skin, so... And then that makes sense with the meteor part of this legend that Gaasyendietha, if you see a meteor, it might be Gaasyendietha. So I'll leave that up there, and we're just going to take a nice little 5-minute break. We'll say hello about the salamanders. We learned so many cool things about salamanders. They are incredible animals. Like, I was constantly having my mind blown. Anyway, without further ado, let's all take a nice break. I highly encourage everyone else to also get up, stretch your body if you can, give your eyes a rest, get some water, a snack. I'll be back in about 5 minutes. Hello everyone, welcome back. I hope you had a great break. Looks like I missed Wolf. If you're still here by chance, goodbye Wolf. Have a safe trip home. And thank you for everything today, resubscribing and donating and everything. Oh, and Sarah was lurking but listening. Hype for Wolf's donation. Yeah, it's so exciting. I'm so happy. It really does. It totally makes my day because it means that my art has inspired others to help animals, and that is so meaningful to me. It's like hard to explain. It falls so flat when I put it into words and speak it out loud, but it really, it makes me feel so wonderful, so happy. Okay. Man, we are making excellent progress on this. I think that we should be able to start on ink today. I don't know if we'll be able to finish ink, but definitely should be able to start on ink, because now all we have to do, I'm just going to leave the splash as is, realizing that Gaasyendietha is only just barely touching down. Makes sense that this splash wouldn't be too big. And I do feel like I've created flames that have a very different look to the splash, because it's just going to be white, just black and white. So I really have to use the shape to help show the difference between flame and water. And flame and water actually have a very similar consistency. Of course, water is safe to handle, meanwhile flame, But as far as the visual language goes, having the splash be all nice and round and having the flames be very pointy and jagged, I think that really helps. So now we just need to finish the scene with the background and maybe showing some reflection on the water, but I think what we actually need to do is show reflection from this flaming tail. Is what we have in the, it's been covered up by now, but what we had in the reference photo, since it's daytime, was this mountain reflecting on the water. But I realize this needs to be nighttime, so that means the sky is dark, this mountain is barely visible, and the water will be dark as well, reflecting all of that. So let's get to it. Yay! So first let me get my reference image back on top. OBS was on top, so I'll get reference image on top. Okay, first we'll just get the beach finalized. Not too hard, just a simple line here. And then that foresty mountain. Some areas are coming down a little farther. The beach reaches up farther in other areas, but it's also fairly straight across. So something like that. Okay, so we've got the beach figured out. Now for this bit of land coming across along the top. So along the water's edge, of course, is nice and smooth. Straight and smooth there. But along this top edge, you start to see more and more spiky indications of the forest. You can see the trees sticking up, even though it's so far away that they're very, very small. And then there's long areas where it's just sort of bumpy and you don't necessarily see the individual spike of a tree, but it's definitely not smooth like along the water. And as we get up higher, there seems to be a lot more trees. And so it's probably actually coming closer to us as viewers. So this is probably going out into the distance instead of just coming straight across. And that's why it gets thinner and thinner. So I'm going to actually thin it out even more to help emphasize that idea. I was so hyped up before the break, I feel kind of weird. Like, everything's so quiet now. But all this is the reason why, and by all this I mean live streaming, sharing my art live with everybody, and being able to chat with you all, and just talk at you if you want to lurk, which is totally cool. I'm perfectly comfortable with that as well. I've been working on, I've mentioned this last week, I believe, my perfectionism workbook. And I used to have such a problem with getting started on my illustration projects because I now realize reading this book I was paralyzed by perfectionism, where if I couldn't do it perfectly, I felt like I couldn't start at all, and so I was afraid to start. But now, with live streaming and being able to share my work and just do this on camera with everyone, it's just so easy to keep creating. And not every piece is the best thing I've ever made, but every piece helps me get better, so it's all worth it. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that, Sarah. Plus, it's really cool to be creating while someone else is creating. I think the term is co-working, but long before that was a term, I still remember with you, Sarah, and with other friends I had, I'd be working on something, and it could be homework or whatever, not just a creative project. But I would message y'all back on the AOL Instant Messenger, and I would just want to chat to someone while I was working. And it could be in text. That was in text form, not in speaking form. And that's probably why I'm so comfortable with this. The way things are now and this way of working. Because that's always helped me. Right? 25 years ago, throwback. Yep. Oh, I just can't believe it. It doesn't feel that long ago. It's good memories. That's probably why. The good memories feel more, I don't know, they're stronger or something for me. Or I enjoy remembering them, and so that's why I think of them more, and that's why it's solidified more in my brain, or I don't know. So I was trying some things here with this edge, the bottom edge of this forest. I'm really liking it, so I'm going to take it back. Maybe if I zoom in on the reference, I can get a better idea of how it looks and how I can translate into line. Oh yeah, and now that I'm zooming in, yep, these are people on this beach here. So this little tiny line I drew, yep, that is correct. That is the size of a human. It's a little tiny, half a centimeter. Yeah, it's just the trees coming down, and then there's... Oops. I switched to a different picture. Oh, there's actually some construction... There's some construction equipment in this photo. That's interesting. Well, I'm not going to include that. I just want to include the nature. So it seems like there's this really short, brushy kind of area as it comes onto the beach, and then as it rises higher, the trees and the foliage becomes darker, much dark green. Almost as if there's more pine trees, evergreen trees, but that could just be a trick of the light, or a trick of the camera filter or whatever, but there's definitely lighter plants. Like these light tan and yellow, down here along the beach, and then the stuff moving up is much darker. Okay. Just need to know this for when I am inking it. All right, that's better. That's better. I like how I did that time. I'm going to have some extra lines here showing the area where the beach is a little darker because the sand is wet from the tide coming in and out. Okay. And then we do have just a little bit of indications of the sand having some different, it's not just like this perfectly flat plane. Like there's little rises and dips in the sand itself. So I want this beach to be interesting. Even if it is just a teeny tiny triangle. We don't want it to take too much attention, but leaving it underworked could also bring attention to it. So we want to make sure it matches with everything else. So I think the final thing left to do is show some reflection coming from these flames. And I think that they should come toward the viewer because in the reference photo that I'm using, the reflection of this mountain arm, I guess I'll call it, I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I just realized my camera is really wonky. It also reflects toward the viewer in this photo, which was taken during the daytime. So we use that as an example. Just have some areas where we're going to leave it lighter because it's reflecting on the water. And these bits of reflection should get bigger because they're being caught by the waves that are happening now that the splash has happened. And so as it comes closer to the viewer, the waves should get bigger just because of perspective. That looks pretty good, I think. Trying to get some variety. I did a lot of oval shapes. Let's make sure there's some should be connected. They shouldn't all be individual ovals. Okay. I think that's good. I have to figure a few things out as I go, as I start inking, but I think I'm ready to start inking. Got all the major elements accounted for now. So, oh, what shall I do with this? It doesn't fit. Should I just fold it in half? I think I'm going to fold it in half so I can store it with the sketch that it goes with. First I'm going to fold this bit down that I didn't draw on so it doesn't stick out. And I'll at least make sure not to fold it through Gaasyendietha's main part of their body. So I can't help folding it through the tail, but the main sketch it won't be marred by a crease. And I'll just get some artist tape, tape that in there. And if I ever come to look at it in the future, I'll know that these two things go together. Then I can put this sketchbook away, and there will be room to bring the main camera in closer so you can see better what I'm doing. It'd be cool, maybe one day in the future I will be a big enough streamer that I can have a really cool camera set up in a really huge workspace, and I won't have to do all of this rearranging all the time or worrying about it. Maybe like I have a camera crew and they're the ones dealing with it and I don't have to do anything but make my art. That'd be cool. Until then though, just make do with what I've got, which isn't bad. My first camera is this little one. I think it cost $100. I still have it. And I've just been upgrading over the years, slowly but surely. Oh yeah, I better get out my ink and stuff. Not just putting stuff away, but getting other supplies out. Here's my inking tools, and I've been using my favorite Sumi Ink 60, absolute favorite ink. And this is my inking materials kit. So to make a little bit of room, I'm going to put some of this other stuff away first. So I don't need them anymore, like these gray pens. And I might need some of the stuff out of this kit later, but I won't need it right now. So put these away. Boop. And this goes in here. Okay, excellent. This can just sit there for now. Alright, I've got my little towel. This is the pen I've been using for all of these pieces because my idea is the Maginaturalist is traveling light. So she's just got the one ink, the one pen, and the one sketchbook, although I'm waiting for my replacement sketchbook to come. So that's slightly different, but in general, just using the same. So this is Kuretake Zeg is the brand, and then the item is the Sumi Ink 60. For this pen, it's a dip pen, but it has a fountain pen style nib on it, and it is Pentel. What is it? Pilot. It's Pilot Iro Utsushi, and this is the medium nib, which you can tell because it says. So I don't know if it'll focus on that, but it's. Oh, I think it's focusing. M for medium. And that's the one I'm using, although I'm going to get this nice little pen rest out in case I want it. This ink actually has a built-in pen rest on the cap. I don't know if you can see it here, but it has little curves on both sides to use it if you want. But since I have this little glass one, I'll just use that. Oh yeah, we still have just a little less than 20 Well, we'll just say we have about 25 minutes left in this stream. So let's see how far we can get. This is pretty exciting. I'm thinking that I might do the same for the sky as I did for the sky and the water as I did for the sea in the Aya piece a couple pieces ago, 2-3 pieces ago, which is just fill that in digitally to save time and materials, because I am trying to create my pieces with the story that I'm telling in mind, but I'm not trying to be a perfectionist about it. So if I can do it faster and saving money and materials and time, then let's just do that. And get the same effect. We'll get the same effect though. That's important. Aww. No. I know what you mean. It's so hard sometimes when we can't just talk to them with our human words. Aww. He might just want to snuggle with you, and he likes your warmth and your smell, and he just wants to be close. Okay, I'm scrolling down to the rocks here. I guess we'll just start here. It's a good place as any. Yeah, exactly. That's probably the same answer that anybody would have. What do you want? Love. Yes. That's probably right. I'm purposefully making these lines broken because on these big boulders, for one, they've got a sort of rough texture to begin with, and two, they seem to have something like lichen or moss or something growing on them in their cracks and crevices. So it really has this nice texture to them. There's not very smooth lines here. So I'm trying to capture that with the way I ink. Aww, he's your special boy. I wonder if this is it. I kind of feel the same way about Soon. He had such a profound impact on me, and I had dogs. Family dogs and dogs that were mine, like Kenshi. I adopted him. He is the first pet that I adopted from the animal shelter. So maybe what it is that the other dogs, and we love them very much and everything, but it's thanks to them that eventually we learn how to communicate and understand dogs, that a later dog we're able to really connect with thanks to the other dogs that we've known. That's my theory. Because I don't ever want to say that I loved Soon more than any other dog that I had the honor and privilege to care for, but he was a very, very special boy to me too. And my Chappie and my Aoife are my very, very special girls too, so I think that I just have learned how to communicate so well that I connect even deeper with dogs now than I ever did. Only for the next 5 months? What do you mean? Oh, he'll be a big brother, gotcha. I was like, what? What do you mean? get it. I get it. I loved my dogs when I was a little kid, our family dogs. Schnee and Ziggy. Still remember their names? I loved having dog siblings. Aw, needy and kind of dumb. Well, we can say that he's simple. He's a simple boy. Woo! Slowly getting these rocks done takes a lot longer than it seems like it should. It's really important to me to ink them in a way that we don't end up with too many tangents where lines are just all meeting in one spot. Because then that brings attention away from our main character here. So these are just supporting characters. In a literal sense too, since it's the support upon which our Maginaturalist is standing. I might add more later, but I'm going to start adding some hatching in already for these really dark crevices where the boulders are coming together. Love hatching. It is so satisfying. It is so fun and satisfying. You have to take a little care with it, but it's also very forgiving as well. As long as you're really consistent with, especially the angle of the lines, you can get away with a lot. And it's just so fun and meditative and calming. I'm adding some here. I'm seeing it in the reference, but I also definitely want to add it because I want a sort of vignette effect around the edges like I usually aim for. I'm working on the opposite side that I should be working on right now because it's not dry. I can't put my hand on it. And I just got really into this side of the rocks. Well, let's ink some other things while that dries. Just realized my tertiary camera is not looking at anything of interest. I'll fix that in a second. Bring it over here. Can look at something interesting. Adding the lovely little reflections on the water. I did not look up a reference for what does a fireball look like when it lands in water, so I'm just completely doing this from imagination. Hopefully it's convincing enough. As long as it looks like a reflection, as long as it looks like our main character is creating this reflection, that should be good enough. Hopefully this will look alright once I fill this all in with black. Might end up looking a lot different. Okay, we are working on Gaasyendietha themselves. It feels like my pen nib is getting a little gunked up, so I'm going to wipe it and then re-dip it. It felt that way because the line was coming out a lot thicker than I expected it to. And I gave them that happy eye. I wanted to use a little bit of anime manga style visual language to show that this is a good time. I realize I need to add spots. Although I wonder if I should, because this is a very small space. But I could add some. Maybe I'll save that, try to remember to do that digitally. Adding some spots to Gaasyendietha. Because I don't want to do too much and end up muddying up the piece. there's still these little spits of flame flying off. I wonder if I should turn it upside down to do... Yeah, let's do that. I want to turn it upside down to do the background elements. Trying to get no shadow. I just can't win. Just can't win with the shadows. Whoa, let's make my other camera go crazy. Okay, that's good. Good enough. Get the trees there a little bit higher than I did in the sketch because I just try not to have any conflict there between the flames and the trees that are way, way off in the background. I'm actually going to turn it this way. Hopefully this is dry now. Okay. Seems dry. I put my whole hand on it and nothing came off. I want to be able to draw this beach line smoothly. Continues back behind these flames, so we can't neglect that. Okay, and this is the trees growing out onto the beach. We're going to be adding tons of ink to this scene. Right now it's way too light. We've got to make this a nighttime scene. So we've got a lot of work to do still, but looking good, looking good. Okay. Keep going, we'll just keep going. Maybe I will, let me scroll up on my reference image and zoom in. I think I'll add some lines for the forest and rocky look of this land here. Because it's not all just straight up and down. Along the ridge it is. The lines of the trees themselves growing up creates this hatching effect even in the photo. But along the mountain itself it's more of a sloping look. And we've got different shapes too. We've got round shapes from some deciduous trees, and then we've got little areas where the rock is poking through and it looks much lighter than the trees. So let's see what I can do. Oops, I keep clicking this next button instead of... I'm trying to scroll over, but I click too far on the side and end up just hitting the little button that pops up to go to the next image. Okay, so I'm going to do hatching. We're going to do it at an angle to help show that slope. We will start leaving some spaces here and there untouched on purpose to be that lighter rock showing through. Scroll on over. Here next to the flames, we definitely want it nice and dark, even if there's technically rock there. I want it dark so that the flames can shine brighter in our image. And so for that ridge line, we're going to use vertical hatching. We don't want it to be too dark though, because the sky is going to be pitch black. So we need some stuff to shine through. Okay, back to the sloping look, which I think is working really nicely. It's getting the effect I wanted. Using just ink with a dip pen, it's giving dimension to this scene. So in the front, I'm actually going to do a little sort of curved swirling lines to represent some of these rounder deciduous trees that I'm seeing. So they are going to be dark because it's nighttime, it's the middle of the night. But that texture on top of the white paper will help show that there's some other stuff here and it's interesting and there's variety. Some are bigger than others. Some are being overlapped by other things. And there's even a few growing up the sides of this hill. So they're not just along the beach. That's enough of those, so I'm going to go back to the angled hatching for the rest. Oh shoot, we're out of time though. Ah! I just dipped my pen though, so I'm going to do at least a little bit more. Oh, wonderful! I'm so happy that your postcard arrived. Yay! Hope it arrived fairly intact. I know sometimes the mail sorting system can be really rough on the paper. I have to say that's one of my favorite, might have even put it on the postcard, but it's one of my favorite pieces I've done for the Maginaturalist sketchbook piece series so far, is that Fafnir. Yay! I'm so happy! I don't know what it is. I just love hearing when people's postcards arrived. glad you think so. And thank you for your kind words. That one made me feel like, ah, yes, starting this Maginaturalist sketchbook series was the right thing to do. Not just to have something that I can finish faster so that I can deliver on my promise to send rewards every month on Patreon, but because I can feel my inking and black and white illustration skills getting stronger with each piece. I feel like I leveled up with that piece. Something about it, there's something clicked. Just all the practice I've been doing with the other pieces, I think. So I'm adding some horizontal lines in here because I'm seeing some trees sticking up. And they have a very distinct horizontal shape. So I'm adding this in, have another different texture in here. But let's call it good here now. We're at the point where I feel like dipping my pen again, so that's a good point to stop because we are at time. And I got started streaming on time today, so I actually streamed a little extra 5 minutes here. Alright, so swiped off my pen. Let me cap my ink. Oh, yes, you know he did. Oh, Wolf, you're able to come back. Yay! I'm so happy. Yep, it is time to go. I'm stretching now, suddenly. Woo. Let's see who's streaming today. Poor Yasmin Arts yesterday was having a lot of trouble with her audio. And it sounded like she was sick too, so I felt really bad. I tried to help, but I wasn't able to find any solution either. It was a really weird problem. Let's go see Just Freebird. She's doing co-working and studying, and she says, let's get some things done. We haven't seen Just Freebird in a long time. Oh, you know what I haven't done though? Let me do a little... I forget to do this recently, I feel. But a little look at how far we got today. We'll pick up on this next week on Wednesday. Might even be able to finish it in 2 hours, considering how far we got with just 2 streams this week working. This is 4 hours of work. So... let me switch my stuff around so I can get my keyboard out. Yeah. Oh, it's hard. The camera's in the way. Okay. Put that there. I can put that back up there so you can see something more interesting than me typing. Try to light it up nicer there. Beep. Sweet. Okay. Just Freebird. /raid just_Freebird. Make sure I spelled it correctly. Oh yeah. Okay, let's go. Okay, I'm trying to remember that I tend to cut myself off by rating before what I say has actually been delivered to Twitch. So let me thank you for joining me today for this illustration stream. Wolfax, thank you for resubscribing and donating to our fundraiser, the full amount in the first week of the fundraiser. I will be back again tomorrow, same time as usual, starting a new chibi, another birthday gift chibi for Chibi Friday. So I hope to see you then, but even if not, let me welcome, wish you a wonderful rest of your day. I'm going to wait a few seconds and then click the raid button. Boom. Raid complete. So if you are still on my channel now or watching the recording later, as I said, that's it for me today. I'll be back tomorrow. Hope to see you then. Thank you for watching.